Welcome to Kyiv. Why has Donald Trump granted refugee status to white South Africans facing no real threats at home, but is figuring out how to deport more than 200,000 Ukrainian refugees who've been displaced by Russia's invasion? For clarity, the Washington Post reports that the administration is planning on deporting some 500,000 Haitians and other mostly POC refugees. But I'm focusing on Ukrainians for one reason. Usually it's people of color who are disproportionately deported from the US, but under Trump, Europeans are feeling the discomfort and humiliation of America's xenophobia. Specifically, Ukrainians are feeling the brunt of this in ways white refugees aren't used to. And I know white doesn't speak to Ukrainians' cultural heritage and history of oppression by Russia, and white is a racial construct, but in America and the rest of the world, Ukrainians are white. Under Biden, Ukrainians are viewed with sympathy and admiration. The U.S. sent billions in humanitarian and military aid to Ukraine to support them in their battle against Russian colonialism. But Trump, who claims Putin is his friend and blames Biden for the full-scale war, always viewed Ukraine as a drain on U.S. taxpayers. Translation, white people. His vice president famously said during his run for Senate that he doesn't care about Ukraine and feels supporting the country is a waste of U.S. tax dollars, even though aid to Ukraine is a fraction of defense spending and much of that is spent in the United States. House Speaker Mike Johnson held up Ukraine aid in Congress for months, arguing that funds needed to be spent protecting the U.S. border instead. And for those who don't know, Republican arguments for border control are laced with racist and xenophobic stereotypes about Latinos. Sending money to Ukraine in MAGA world means less money to protect white people and the rest of his xenophobic base from the hordes of brown people invading America and committing crimes, even though that's not true. However, welcoming white South Africans to the U.S. under the fake guise of racial persecution fits perfectly with Trump's white nationalist agenda. It feeds his racist supporters feelings that their whiteness is being devalued, and his welcome of white South Africans being abused by those black roots in Africa proves that he's serious not only about protecting whiteness abroad, but preserving it at home. Ukrainians, even though they are white, don't offer that type of political capital because they are seen as taking money that could be spent protecting white people against brown people who are, in Trump's own words,
they're poisoning the blood of our country. That's what they've done. They poison.
So essentially, U.S. racism and anti-blackness is indirectly harming Ukrainians in ways their skin color isn't able to shield them from like it normally would. Racism doesn't just hurt people of color, it has consequences for Ukrainians as well.